In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about icons. There's actually three sources for icons. They get used for buttons and a couple other things, so I'm going to get a little into the weeds here. The first one is Font Awesome. Let's talk about that first. I'll do this video simply on Font Awesome. Go into Google, pop in Font Awesome. Let's double click on here. And then simply go over here to all the icons. Obviously, there's a professional section for those who want to pay for icons. I'm going to go ahead and click all 248 at this time. And because we're students, we're doing everything for free. So let's click on free. Now you can go ahead and select any one that you want. So I'm going to select here Apple Pay. Okay. Now remember, like Google Fonts, I need to link in. So number one, I'm going to be given a line of code which I can put in the body of my website. So let's double click here on Apple Pay, and it'll give it to me here. Sometimes they're good for span, sometimes bold. I think the only requirement is has to be inline, an inline text element. But you can go ahead. I'm going to copy and paste this. Control C, and then shrink it down, and then I'm going to pop it into my web page. So I'm going to do it in my body, Control V. Now it's not going to recognize this class. Again, I'm assuming you've gone over the basics of a class. In this case, Font Awesome has created this class for me, and I'll show you a couple other classes we could use to create different effects that Font Awesome has already defined. But I got to get the computer to understand, hey, where are all these classes? So go back. Let's go back to Font Awesome. Go back. Let's just click on Getting Started. Most of the time the link for that will be at Getting Started. Not always. Most of the time what's going to happen for us is if we're doing this professionally, we would download these and put them onto our server. It's sort of unusual just to link in. So I'm going to do free. I'm going to just do all and then copy and paste right here the script here, and I'll throw it in my header section. So let's go ahead and do that. Control S. In this case, it's a script. It's not a link of a CSS. Then go back to our program, and I'm going to pop it in again inside the head section above the style. Control V. Okay. I think W3C Schools does another tutorial also with Font Awesome. I think they're using a later version. If you want to use that version, that's fine. Some of the things will or won't work with this new release for Font Awesome. Good enough. Let's get this to work right now. So I've got my link in, and I've got my italics with a class of Fab FA Apple Pay. Control S, refresh, and shrink that down, and then refresh our web page. We should have allow content. We should have our Apple Pay. Now again, oh man, Apple Pay, that's sort of small. So you've got several ways to do it. I'm going to discuss all three ways here. The first way is simply to put inside here an inline style. So if this is a one-off, you could probably do this. So style equals font size 30 pixels, comma, and then let me do color green. Now in this case I've got multiple font styles, so as a general rule, put it all in quotes to get it to work well. Control S, refresh, and now I've got Apple Pay at 30 pixels with a texture of green. The other option is to put it inside a div. So if you've got a section of icons, you can put them into a div. So second option. So let's go ahead and delete that. Actually, I'm going to copy and paste here. I'm going to Control C here. I'm going to put a style section in here. I will do a div. It doesn't have to be a div as long as it's an HTML element. Control C, Control V, and then I'll delete it from my inland style. So now I'm putting the style as a div. and /div. Second option. So let's go, just change this. I'm going to change this to 50 so it shows up a little, so you can see it's been changed. So /div, Control S, and then refresh, and then I've got Apple Pay. There you go, looking a little bit better. With Font Awesome, I cannot build a class on top of a class like I can do with the material icons in Google, which we'll talk about. It'll be a separate video. I'm just going to do each one of the major ones as a separate video. Why? Because you can use these icons for buttons, all sorts of things later on. If you get a good understanding now, we're good to go. Okay, what I do with Font Awesome is they've got some classes predefined that I can use. You need to go look at the documentation to get it. But let's go ahead and talk about a fun one. I want to do that right away. And you go to Wood. The first one is, man, nice, cute. I've got Font Pay. I wanted to spin, which is, I think, sort of fun. fa.spin. So this is a predefined class, Apple Pay Phase Spin by Awesome. So again, all I got to do is declare the class name, Control S, refresh, and Notepad, there you go, and refresh, and now I've got Apple Pay spinning around. Okay. Now the other thing is, hey, Korea, I don't want to do a div. I want to do sizes by class. I can do that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to shrink this down. I'll go back to there. So there's a couple other options. I'm not going to go over all of them, but you can go ahead and get the basics of it done. Okay. So it's FA dash. Now it goes from 10 EM to 2 EM to 10 EM, so 10 PX. Control S, refresh, and then go Google, and then it will no longer spin because I've removed it. I simply have Apple Pay quite large and pay. Now these are not all the options available to you, but I just want to go over the basics of the class options available in Font Awesome. So a summary of using Font Awesome to put icons on our web page.